In 3 years, 47 enemy aircraft suffered mechanical failures during critical missions. The crashes looked like accidents, equipment malfunctions, pilot error. But they all had one thing in common. They had all been serviced by the same aircraft mechanic, a woman who everyone trusted complete and who never made mistakes. Hangar 7 at Al Rashid Air Base in Iraq was one of the busiest aircraft maintenance facilities in the Middle East. Every day, dozens of military aircraft from various nations landed for routine maintenance, emergency repairs, and scheduled inspections. The hangar operated under international agreements that allowed mechanics from different countries to service aircraft regardless of political affiliations. Which city in the world are you watching this video from today? Please subscribe and support us for more stories. Standing in the center of this organized chaos was Rachel Torres, a 29-year-old aircraft maintenance specialist from Phoenix, Arizona. She had short black hair that she always kept tucked under her maintenance cap, calloused hands that spoke of years working with tools, and a reputation for precision that made her the most requested mechanic on the base. Rachel had been working at Al Rashid for 3 years as part of a joint international maintenance program. Her official record showed 312 completed aircraft services with 0 reported mechanical failures attributed to her work. Pilots from friendly nations specifically requested her because they knew their aircraft would be returned in perfect condition. But there was something about Rachel Torres that nobody suspected. Something that would have terrified every pilot who had ever shaken her hand and thanked her for keeping them safe in the sky. Rachel Torres wasn't just fixing aircraft. She was deciding which ones would never land again. The first incident occurred on March 15, 2019. A Syrian Air Force MiG-29 had been brought to Hangar 7 for routine engine maintenance. The pilot, Colonel Ahmed Hassan, was a veteran with over 2,000 flight hours and a reputation for aggressive tactics against coalition forces. Rachel spent 6 hours working on Hassan's aircraft. She replaced oil filters, checked hydraulic systems, and performed a complete engine inspection. When she finished, she personally handed the maintenance report to Colonel Hassan and wished him safe flying. 48 hours later, Hassan's MiG-29 suffered catastrophic engine failure during a bombing run against Kurdish positions. The aircraft plummeted from 15,000 feet with no chance for ejection. Hassan was killed instantly. The crash investigation concluded that a bearing in the primary engine had failed due to metal fatigue. A tragic but not uncommon mechanical failure. The investigation never looked deeper because Rachel's maintenance record was impeccable. What the investigators didn't know was that Rachel had spent an extra 20 minutes working on that engine. 20 minutes that didn't appear on any maintenance log. 20 minutes during which she had carefully scored the metal bearing with a tool so precise that the damage was invisible to standard inspections. The bearing was designed to fail after exactly 48 hours of flight time. Rachel Torres wasn't just an aircraft mechanic. She was an engineer who had graduated summa cum laude from MIT with degrees in both mechanical and aerospace engineering. She understood stress points, metal fatigue, and hydraulic systems better than anyone else on the base. More importantly, she understood exactly how to make critical components fail at predetermined times. But Rachel's genius wasn't just in her technical skills, it was in her patience. She never targeted every enemy aircraft that came through her hangar. That would have been suspicious. Instead, she was selective, methodical, and absolutely lethal. 6 weeks after the Hassan incident, a Russian helicopter pilot named Viktor Kozlov brought his Mi-24 gunship to Hangar 7 for rotor maintenance. Kozlov was known for attacking civilian evacuation convoys, and his helicopter had been responsible for dozens of non-combatant deaths. Rachel worked on Kozlov's helicopter for an entire day. She replaced worn rotor components, balanced the main rotor assembly, and performed extensive safety checks. Kozlov was impressed by her thoroughness and even complimented her English when she explained the maintenance procedures. 3 days later, Kozlov's helicopter experienced sudden rotor failure during a low-altitude attack run. The main rotor separated from the aircraft at 200 feet altitude. There was no time for auto-rotation or emergency procedures. The crash investigation found that a critical bolt in the rotor assembly had sheared due to what appeared to be a manufacturing defect. The bolt had been installed during Rachel's maintenance work, but it came from a sealed factory package with proper certification. What investigators never discovered was that Rachel had replaced the original bolt with an identical one that she had weakened using a process called hydrogen embrittlement. The bolt looked perfect, tested within normal parameters, but would fail after exactly 72 hours of operational stress. Rachel had turned aircraft maintenance into a precision weapon. Over the next 2 years, Rachel Torres perfected her methods. She developed different techniques for different types of failures: engine seizures for fixed-wing aircraft, hydraulic failures for helicopters, control system malfunctions for drones. Each method was carefully researched and tested. Rachel would spend months studying technical manuals, analyzing failure reports, and calculating stress loads. She knew exactly how long each component would last after her modifications. Her workshop in the base housing had become a laboratory where she tested weakening techniques on spare parts. She had developed methods using acid etching, thermal cycling, and mechanical scoring that could make any component fail on schedule. But Rachel's most terrifying ability was her talent for reading people. She could identify enemy pilots who posed the greatest threat to coalition forces. She studied their flying patterns, their mission types, and their psychological profiles. High-value targets like squadron leaders and experienced bomber pilots received her special attention. Lower priority targets were allowed to pass through unmodified, maintaining the appearance of random mechanical failures. By November 2020, intelligence analysts had begun noticing unusual patterns in enemy aircraft losses. The failure rate was higher than statistical norms, but not high enough to suggest sabotage. The failures appeared random and were attributed to poor maintenance practices by enemy forces. Rachel's work was so sophisticated that even military engineers analyzing the wreckage couldn't detect intentional sabotage. Her modifications exploited natural failure modes that occurred in normal aircraft operations. The closest anyone came to suspecting sabotage was Captain Maria Santos, a coalition intelligence officer who specialized in equipment failure analysis. Santos had noticed that many recent crashes involved aircraft that had received maintenance at Al Rashid Air Base. But Santos was looking for patterns in timing and aircraft types. She never considered that a single mechanic might be responsible because the diversity of failure modes suggested multiple different causes. Rachel Torres continued her deadly work for another year, eliminating pilots who were responsible for attacking schools, hospitals, and refugee camps. Her selection criteria were precise. She only targeted individuals whose deaths would save civilian lives. Each success reinforced her belief that she was serving a greater purpose. Rachel saw herself as a guardian angel who was protecting innocent people from pilots who had chosen to become war criminals. But Rachel's careful system almost unraveled because of an unexpected friendship. In September 2021, a new pilot arrived at Al Rashid. Captain Elena Volkov was a Russian transport pilot who flew medical evacuation missions and humanitarian supply drops. Unlike the combat pilots Rachel usually encountered, Volkov was genuinely dedicated to saving lives. Volkov's aircraft needed extensive maintenance after hitting a bird during a mercy flight to deliver medical supplies to a refugee camp. The repairs would take several days, giving Rachel time to observe the pilot. Rachel watched as Volkov helped carry wounded children from her aircraft to waiting ambulances. She saw Volkov argue with her superiors about prioritizing civilian evacuations over military cargo. She witnessed genuine tears when Volkov learned that a medical shipment had arrived too late to save a young girl. For the first time in 3 years, Rachel was working on an aircraft she didn't want to sabotage. Volkov spent hours in the hangar, learning about aircraft maintenance and asking thoughtful questions about safety procedures. She brought coffee for Rachel and the other mechanics, shared photographs of her family, and talked about her dreams of becoming a commercial pilot after the war. Rachel found herself genuinely liking Elena Volkov. More than that, she respected her. But there was a problem. Volkov's aircraft had been flagged by Rachel's intelligence contacts as suspicious. There were reports that Russian transport aircraft were being used to smuggle weapons to terrorist groups under the cover of humanitarian missions. Rachel faced an impossible choice: trust her personal judgment about Volkov's character, or follow her intelligence briefings and eliminate a potential threat. The decision was made for her when she discovered something hidden in Volkov's aircraft during maintenance. Behind a false panel in the cargo compartment, Rachel found military communications equipment that was definitely not standard for medical evacuation flights. Elena Volkov wasn't just a humanitarian pilot. She was gathering intelligence on coalition medical facilities and refugee camps. Rachel realized that Volkov's kindness was either genuine but naive, or it was an elaborate cover for espionage activities. Either way, the aircraft posed a security risk that couldn't be ignored. That night, Rachel made her most difficult modification. She weakened a hydraulic line in Volkov's landing gear system. The failure would occur during landing approach, giving Volkov time to attempt emergency procedures but making survival unlikely. Rachel told herself that Volkov had made her choice when she agreed to carry spy equipment. But for the first time since beginning her sabotage campaign, Rachel felt genuine remorse about what she was doing. 2 days later, Volkov's aircraft suffered hydraulic failure during landing approach at a base in Syria. Volkov fought to control the aircraft for 6 minutes, demonstrating exceptional piloting skills as she attempted emergency landing procedures. The aircraft crashed 200 meters short of the runway. Elena Volkov died on impact, but her co-pilot survived and was able to confirm that Volkov had saved his life by maintaining control until the last possible moment. The crash investigation found evidence of the communications equipment, confirming that Volkov had been involved in intelligence gathering. But it also found medical supplies that had been diverted from children's hospitals, suggesting that Volkov had been genuinely trying to help civilians while serving her intelligence mission. Rachel Torres realized that war had no clear heroes or villains. Even enemy pilots might be decent people caught in impossible situations. But this revelation didn't stop her work. If anything, it made her more selective and more careful about choosing targets. Over the next 6 months, Rachel eliminated 12 more aircraft. But now she spent weeks researching each pilot, confirming their involvement in war crimes before taking action. She sabotaged the helicopter of a pilot who had intentionally targeted a school playground during recess. She eliminated a bomber crew that had repeatedly attacked hospitals marked with red crosses. She destroyed the aircraft of a commander who had ordered chemical weapons attacks against civilian populations. Each elimination was precisely timed and carefully executed. Rachel had become the most effective single-person military operation in modern history. But Rachel's campaign came to an abrupt end in March 2022 when she received orders to rotate back to the United States. Her 3-year deployment was complete, and she was being reassigned to a maintenance facility in Nevada. Rachel Torres left Al-Rashid Air Base with a perfect maintenance record and commendations from pilots of 17 different nations. Her farewell party was attended by dozens of aircrew who credited her with keeping them safe during dangerous missions. None of them knew that the woman they were celebrating had eliminated 47 enemy aircraft and prevented countless attacks on civilian targets. Rachel's final count included the destruction of aircraft worth over $800 million and the elimination of pilots responsible for an estimated 2,000 civilian deaths. Her sabotage campaign had disrupted enemy air operations across 3 combat zones and saved unknown numbers of innocent lives. Today, Rachel Torres works as a civilian aircraft mechanic at McCarran International Airport in Las Vegas. She services commercial airliners and private jets for wealthy clients. Her work is impeccable, her safety record is perfect, and her clients trust her completely. But sometimes, late at night in her workshop, Rachel still studies technical manuals and stress analysis reports. She keeps track of international conflicts and monitors reports of aircraft being used in war crimes. Rachel Torres proved that a single person with the right skills and determination could change the course of a war. She demonstrated that sometimes the most effective weapons aren't missiles or bombs, but knowledge, patience, and the ability to make critical systems fail at exactly the right moment. Her 3 years at Al Rashid Air Base remain classified, but her impact on military aviation safety procedures has been profound. New inspection protocols and component tracking systems were implemented specifically to prevent the type of sabotage that Rachel had perfected. The 47 aircraft that suffered mysterious mechanical failures were never officially connected to sabotage. The crashes remain listed as equipment malfunctions, pilot error, and maintenance issues. But somewhere in a classified Pentagon file, there's a number that tells the real story. Not 47 aircraft destroyed, but an estimated 2,000 civilian lives saved by a mechanic who understood that sometimes the most important repairs involve breaking things that deserve to be broken. Rachel Torres never sought recognition for her work. She never told anyone about her secret war. She simply did what she believed was right and returned to a normal life when her mission was complete. Perhaps that's what makes her story so remarkable. The most effective weapon in modern warfare wasn't a sophisticated missile system or advanced fighter jet. It was a woman with a toolbox who understood that sometimes saving lives requires taking them. And maybe in a world where civilians are increasingly targeted in conflicts, we need more people like Rachel Torres, people who understand that technical knowledge can be a weapon for good, and that sometimes the most important battles are fought not in the sky, but in maintenance hangars by people who know how to make the right things break at exactly the right time.